Yo guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another weekly forecast. Before we get started, I'm going to quickly just talk over the VIP results as usual. I won't be doing a breakdown in this video because I did split out the breakdown in a separate video that if you go and visit the free channel, which is the link in the description, you'll be able to go and find this video here where we ended up catching 365 pips on gold during its bull run last week. And I break down my full strategy, and you can sort of take points on how I sort of look for my trades and how I ended up catching a sell and 2 buy positions in that one day. But without further ado, as you can see, 2.7% from last week. Wednesday was our best day, as you can see from there. And then Thursday, we entered our US30 trades just a little too early. It was just a little mistake that we ended up making, but I've noted it down in my journal. And I will definitely not be making that same mistake again, hopefully. And then Friday was ruined due to Trump tweeting. However, if this US30 trade was entered correctly, it would have played well into Friday. Because if we quickly go over to the chart and have a look at what happened on Friday, you can see that here's our 2 positions that we were trying to trade. They were entered. You can see that one went into like 100 points in profit, came back up. And then I was looking for another sort of drop back down from here. However, this one ran straight towards stop loss. And then after on the 3rd try, you can see that once price took out this sort of high right here, it then broke structure. And then after Friday, just absolutely collapsed. It was just straight one tweet, bang, targets hit. So had we had entered around about here or around in here or throughout the London session of the next day, could have got into that move. But I was looking for a US session sort of move. But is what it is. We've learned from it, we've journaled it, and on to the next. So without further ado, I'm going to start off with gold, because I know we got the majority of gold traders here who watch these videos. And pretty much I'm going to start off by saying there's a lot of people again who are going to try and short this market. At the moment, I wouldn't do so. Obviously, if you're like sort of intraday and only sort of trying to scalp, yeah, fair enough. If it's matching your strategy, go for it. What I can see based off, if we start on the weekly time frame, and this is what I'm saying, that swing trading, man, if you guys are swing trading this, you could have been able to look at this sort of fair value gap right here and then drag that across. So you can see once that 12th of May weekly candle tapped into this fair value gap, you can see that reaction straight off it, and price ended up pushing about 1,900 pips. If you had a stop loss, you could have a 1,900 pip stop loss, and now this is at 1-to-1, and yeah, so that's just that sort of swing trade approach as I'm looking at. But this helps me in terms of navigating my bias. So I look at the higher time frames and it gives me a bias on where I'm thinking next week should go. So you can see that with this bearish candle, price tapped into this weekly fair value gap, fell to close below, rejected nicely, and then the next week after we ended up getting a big bullish move back to the upside. Now again, this was backed with a daily fair value gap, as you can see right here. If it wants to draw the box, like so, and then you can see that same thing happened here daily. Sort of price ended up breaking out and then absolutely skyrocketed, and this is obviously where we ended up taking advantage of this sort of bullish move, because the weekly time frame was pointing bullish, because the daily time frame was pointing bullish. We then waited for that sort of breakout to happen, and then based off this sort of you can see that price was consolidating at the start of the week. Price ended up breaking out, and then from here it was just buy position, buy position, buy position. And where was the main target? You can see the main target obviously was this gap fill here. This wasn't filled from this area where the week started. We filled the gap, and then we ended up getting another move to this daily fair value gap, which I mentioned, saying that this is where price should be heading next. And it's not sort of showing that price is sort of retracing or starting to fall down now. This is, you can see there's another daily fair value gap right in here where price retested, and this was a bullish daily fair value gap. And then from that, Trump ended up tweeting, and it ended up sort of skyrocketing it towards the next area right here. Now, a lot of people would have looked at this candle and saying that, yes, look, bias is now bearish. This candle is now closed bearish, but then, you know, you've still got support below it. So you don't want to start looking at candles and saying that, yeah, this is now bearish. We need to see a big bearish move first to then say that yes, the market is starting to fall down. You don't want to be first in the move. You want to be sort of, while the move's on its way and it's active, then you want to sort of get in. That's why we're sort of getting in on these buy moves, because it's already active. We just need to just catch a move, and then you end up getting that big impulse up. So you can see that price here. It's in the daily fair value gap now. And it's a very, very bullish close. You can see it on Friday. Looking at the weekly candle, you can see that we had a sort of reversal structure here, and now we got a big green candle. So again, it's highly probable that the next week candle will be bullish. Now, if you look at the targets, you'll have this high, and then you have the all-time high as targets. So it's going to be a very interesting week to see exactly what happens. However, we don't know obviously how the market's going to open, whether it's going to open really high and then it'll use that as support, or will the market open lower and push down first before pushing up. We need to see what happens there. In terms of levels that I'm going to be watching, if I sort of see if I can get the magnet, I cannot get the magnet like that. That's my magnet right there. This will become my daily fair value gap, which I'll be watching for support. Price can, easily drop back down into this level again if it needs to then push up. However, with this bullish close, I have a feeling that price may use the sort of lower time frame structure for pushing up. So you can see that we had this whole area here after price tapped into that daily fair value gap, and you can see that this area right here, if you drag this across, price could potentially start pulling back into that area before making another move up. Again, we are looking for bullish moves, and we are going to keep continuing this move until I see a big bearish move with a close below. Not seeing any big bearish moves. Look at these candles, right? Obviously, we ended up getting a nice retracement into this. Yes, the bearish candles were there, but look at exactly what happened on the same day. Price pulled down start of Thursday, and then for the Friday, price ended up reversing back up to close bullish. So in short, my weekly forecast again will be bullish. However, I'm going to see which levels we sort of react on. I have a feeling that we sort of should hold this area here. This has now become a sort of order block. So you could get a retracement in here at the start of the week to then continue its push up. Key levels I'll be watching obviously are the main highs, where people who are selling will be placing their stop losses. So we would like to see this area be taken out, at least if we get a very strong bullish move next week. So these are the two key areas, and then I see potentially maybe the week after we may get a run for the all-time high, or we could just get a clean run at the start of the week for the all-time high. In terms of news, right, and this should assist you into when you should trade. Tuesday we've got durable goods, FOMC minutes, which is going to be the key driver of this week. Yeah, everyone's going to be waiting for that. And then we have PC on I believe Friday. So Wednesday is going to be a key day. I think Tuesday, where we got Tuesday, so Monday should be some setup. We could get some continuations towards the upside on Monday, or we could get pullbacks on Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday could give us that bullish move. So I'm going to be watching that going into next week. If you guys want to keep updated with my analysis, because certain things change due to market opens and stuff, link is in the description to my free channel, and I do have a free group as well. You'll be able to find the link somewhere on that free channel. I'll reshare it again, where I sort of give my updated analysis more frequently if you guys want to keep up to date with that. But that's it for gold. Let's switch over to US30, because we have been trading this quite often. So looking at US30 now, you can see that price has now obviously pushed up towards this area. This was the last week. You can see from 12th of May. Actually, no, this was the last week from here. So you can see price had a very bearish week back down to this area, and then we had a gap where price filled. Now it's a question of what will price do. If you look at higher time frame levels, we can see that we have a swing high right there. Price took out the liquidity, and now it's retracing to push back. If we have a look at the weekly time frame, you'll be able to see that where it did touch, it is a volume imbalance area. So I was expecting some level of support to come from here. You can even potentially say that this is a daily fair value gap. As you can see with this volume imbalance, price is not traded into it. So this is now also a daily fair value gap where price is rejecting. And it's now tapping into this little area here where we have a volume imbalance as well. We do have a weekly fair value gap down here, right, which I'll be marking up to keep an eye on. So this weekly fair value gap is right there. This is also marked next to a weekly order block. If you look at the daily time frame, you can see that price pushed down here, and then broke out. Potentially price could come back into this area before giving us another bullish move to the upside, and that could sort of be your analysis for this week. Now, it just all depends on what happens in terms of the daily price action. You can see that prices now fill the gap here, right? And it's closed inside the gap. It hasn't closed outside the gap, so it's not as bearish. You see this nice little rejection here. We do have a daily sort of fair value gap to watch as well, where there is liquidity sitting above. So right in here, we have a daily fair value gap. With this structure, we could potentially see a bearish move at the start of the week. If we start to get a sort of climb here at the start of the week, where price is sort of pushing up into this daily fair value gap, and we get a decent reaction off it with a close, this could be a nice setup for a potential short, where to obviously push back below the prior weekly low, and then head down towards this area here. The reason why I'm looking for a potential break of the prior weekly low is if we go to the weekly time frame, you'll be able to see we have a weekly bearish weekly candle. So in terms of buyers, when you look at the weekly candles, the next key area of liquidity would be the weekly low, right? The prior weekly low would be a key level. So you'd want to see a potential, bearish candle head down below that weekly low, and then you could see a slowdown and potential reversal where you get a rejection or something, some sort of things like that. That's what I'm looking for. So that's the sort of key analysis that I'll be looking for in US30. Again, all matters on gap open to see where we are. If you sort of zoom down on the lower time frames, and I'll mark out this gap right here, you can see the similar sort of thing where price closed inside the gap and rejected up, and it's now sort of slowing down. We have the daily fair value get back up here, so potentially if you start to see something like this where price climbs up into that area, you could potentially wait for some sort of reversal pattern, maybe some sort of manipulation distribution sort of power of 3 setup, which could potentially give you another push back down to the lows to clear out some liquidity. So I'll be watching that in US30. That's it for that. Let's move over to US100. Now US100, slightly different structure. However, I'm watching, and this is where, if we're not too keen on a specific bias, I tend to stay out and tend to just watch for a bit until we get better sort of data. Right now we ended up getting, obviously you can see that big push to the upside, and a lot of traders were eyeing the all-time highs here. If we can continue its move, you'll potentially see price, take out that all-time high. We are tapping into this daily fair value gap right here. You can see that price is tapped into this daily fair value gap. Oh, it's a weekly fair value gap as well, which is even more important. If we go down to the daily, similar sort of thing. We have little daily time frames here. You can see that price started to turn around. Now price is now pulling back into this area. This is a decent area of, it's an imbalance right here. You can see that price is now tapping into this. Now we do have a weekly gap right here as well. So a similar sort of thing where, if I go back to US30 quickly, you have a lower gap right there where US30 could potentially fill, and then you also have a lower gap here where US100 could fill. So in terms of aligning and correlating pairs, we potentially could see both pairs, US30 and US100, all the indexes slowly start to push down until we sort of get some sort of potential news, maybe at FOMC minutes, which basically pumps the dollar back up, and then you could get another sort of rise back up in these index markets. So again, we just sort of drop down here. We need to have a look at what happens in terms of this structure. You can see that we ended up getting a breaker block retest right here where price took out almost a high, came back, closed below, retested, and now price obviously ended up collapsing. It's now trading off this area here. You can see that price is holding off this area. If you start to see that price is starting to pull back up here, and you see some sort of key levels where price is using to trade off, you could potentially try target this low and then back down towards this weekly open gap if price wants to go there. Don't force the open gap. Remember, you don't want to force your bias. You want to sort of look at the market and say that, right, look, price is holding off here, why I'm going to try and start selling. If you start getting daily candles which tend to be bullish, now say if the next candle here, like on Monday, is a bullish candle, let's make this green. Can we do that? Yes, we can, like so. Right, say if this is a bullish candle now and it's traded this much, then you're going to start looking at these highs again. because you've got that liquidity sitting up here, price is now bullish, and then say if you get another bullish candle here, and then it's now heading up towards here, then you're like, okay, yeah, this is more likely to heading back up here because it's now retested, price is now pushing back up. You don't want to start saying, yep, price is high now, I'm going to start selling, looking for a sell move. Yeah, unless it's obviously gives you that opportunity. But for now, you want to sort of, you could get something like this where you start getting that sort of bullish move straight off the market open, and that you just have to adapt. You just have to adapt in those scenarios because it's what the market's sort of telling you, and you're still sort of in this bullish uptrending market. As you can see, that price is now pushing up. Remember when the market was pushing up here, people were trying to pick the top, right? But the candles are, you know, very bullish. Same thing up here, where the market was just grinding, and now you're starting to get the bearish candles, and now people want to start buying again. It's like you gotta wait until you start getting that confirmation. For now, not clear confirmation as much on this weekly forecast. However, I'll mark my key areas I'm going to be watching. We have a gap, we have a nice imbalance here. We'd like to see what happens in price. If price doesn't give us a decent bullish candle, I'll be looking for bearish moves at the start of the week. FOMC minutes, in short, is that key event for this week. See what happens at, you know, on that Wednesday in the evening. But that's pretty much it. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, links in the description for the free channel. It's been a waste of facts. Peace out.